Greetings, fellow book lovers, and welcome back to Colin's Corner. Today, we're going to be going over everything that I managed to read in the month of November, but before we get into the wrap-up, we of course have to go over the answer for the last Comedy with Colin segment, where I asked you guys the joke, what does Santa Claus suffer when he gets stuck in the chimney? The answer? Claustrophobia. Alright, let's get on with this wrap-up. So November saw me breaking out of my slump that I was stuck in throughout, I'll probably say half of September, most of October. And so we're going to go over the books that help to drag me back to baseline and to enjoying reading again. And I think I just needed to decompress and take a little bit of a break, but I am so happy to be back. So what is the first of these books that brought me back? The first is going to be a horror novel that I've been kind of eyeing up for a while now. The cover of this book has always really drawn me in, and that is going to be The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. Now, we obviously all know and have a classic haunted hotel story in The Shining by, of course, Stephen King. I loved that setting. I loved how creepy and just eerie the idea of a family being alone in a hotel that was haunted, a massive hotel that was haunted. What I didn't know I needed was a haunted motel story, but that is exactly what Simone St. James gave us in this novel, and might I add, she did a fantastic job. So St. James in this novel makes use of a dual timeline narrative, and it's a storytelling technique that, when it is used correctly and when it fits the narrative, when it fits the story that the author is trying to tell, can work extremely well. In my opinion, all the stars aligned with the Sundown Motel, and this technique elevated my enjoyment of this book significantly. One storyline we are getting is a character named Carly who decided to leave college and investigate her Aunt Viv, who went missing decades ago, but the case never got investigated, or it did, but no conclusion was ever drawn based on the evidence that the police force found, and so the case just kind of went cold and got forgotten about. Now, I would like to say this is the present day narrative that we are following, so the story of Carly is what's happening actively in the story, and her sleuthing kind of leads her to a small town called Fell, New York, where she begins tracing her aunt's steps to try and find some leads and to get some answers about where her aunt might have ended up. The second storyline we are getting is Aunt Viv. So all the events leading up to Aunt Viv's disappearance, we are getting essentially through Viv's eyes, and we, in the present day storyline, are seeing Carly try to put these pieces together. So it's a really kind of anxiety fueled, we know what happens with Aunt Viv, or we're getting what happens with Aunt Viv, and then we're getting to see Carly kind of find these clues that are leading her to the answers of what we know happened with Aunt Viv, and it was a really exciting kind of dichotomy going on, and this is a horror book. It's listed as horror, and it's certainly got some creepy atmospheric moments, a little bit of grotesqueness, but it isn't too bad if you're somebody that doesn't really like the grosser side of horror, the really vulgar, kind of violent side of horror. This is going to be fine. I'd say it more aligns with the kind of ghost story, kind of haunted side of the horror genre, and there's a little bit of grossness that goes on, but if you're picking up a horror book, I think you can kind of safely assume that there might be a little bit of that, but needless to say, like I said, I've known about this book for a while. I kind of slotted it in last minute because, like I said, I was slumping and I just wanted to change some things up. This was a big hit for me. I thought the ending was great. I thought the storyline was a lot of fun to follow, and I highly, highly recommend The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. Next up, I read Don't Fear the Reaper, which is the second book in the Indian Lakes trilogy by Stephen Graham Jones. Now, this is the second book, so I won't talk too much about the plot, obviously, but I just want to express to you guys, again, how much I am enjoying my time with Stephen Graham Jones so far. So this second book, Don't Fear the Reaper, is taking place 4 years after the events of the first book in the trilogy called My Heart is a Chainsaw. We're getting a bit of a time jump, and we get to see how this town, this small town, has adjusted to the events, the concluding events of My Heart is a Chainsaw. The really cool thing about this 4-year time jump is that, yes, 4 years is a lot of time. It's not like some of the time jumps we might get in fantasy, but it made a huge difference because many of the characters that we are following in My Heart is a Chainsaw are high schoolers and had just graduated or were about to graduate at the end of the first book. So this is a time in their lives where that 4-year gap between graduating from high school and where we are now in the second book, a lot has happened. We've seen kind of how these kids who collectively went through a very traumatic event as a school, as a town, a lot of traumatic events, how they've adjusted, how the town has adjusted, the tone of the town, and kind of how they're reunifying and getting through this bizarre thing that happened to them. And a lot of the kids, we are now seeing their first steps into the real world. What have they done after high school? What are their plans? What are they doing with their lives? So I thought that was a really, really interesting time jump, specifically because of where these kids were, what their ages were. And, I've mentioned before in the last couple of videos that I've released that, I think Stephen Graham Jones has a very unique authorial voice and creates some very memorable characters as well. The third and the final book in this Indian Lakes trilogy is called The Angel of Indian Lake, and it is slated to come out in March, so next year in March. And I am very, very excited for that book to come out, and I will definitely be pre-ordering that and reading it as soon as possible. The last book that I managed to finish in the month of November is Dragon Keeper. Now, this is the first book in the Rain Wilds Chronicles by Robin Hobb, so this is the 4th sub-series in the realm of the Elderling, so I'm making my way through. And I love the setting of the Rain Wilds, and so I was actually highly anticipating getting to this series, although it is a lot of people's least favorite series in the entirety of the realm of the Elderlings. I really enjoyed the plot threads that were taking place in the Rain Wilds, so I was excited to get back here and see kind of where we had left off the last time we were in the Rain Wilds, and I knew we were going to be getting some new characters, and of course there would be some familiar ones, but I was, needless to say, very highly anticipating just coming back to this part of Robin Hobb's world. So far, I will say this, in the series so far, this is my least favorite book. However, I did still enjoy it. I want to emphasize that. I don't think it was a bad book. It's just my personal least favorite in the series. And I think the main reason for that, honestly, is that I didn't feel a strong connection personally to any of these characters in the first book. Now, I don't want you to misconstrue that with me saying that the character work is done poorly. I don't think that at all. I think the characters were great. There is, and I'm not saying again that this is why I don't like it, there is, in comparison to the other books thus far in the realm of the Elderlings, seems to be to me a YA kind of tone. Now, not everything that happens in this first book I would consider YA, but there seems to be a bit of a YA tone, and it's been a long time since I've read YA, so I don't know if that rubbed me the wrong way or not. I don't think it did, and it's going to sound maybe like I'm coming off negatively about this book, and that's not the case. I did really enjoy it, and I'm very excited to get to the second book, Dragon Haven. I actually enjoyed the plot of this book quite a lot, and what's kind of going on in the world at this point. Politically, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of shifting and questioning allegiances, new allegiances forming, people doubting those in power type of stuff going on, and rightly so. But like I said, this is my least favorite so far, and that's that statement doesn't hold a lot of weight, really, because the bar is super high. There hasn't been a single book in the realm of the Elderlings that I did not enjoy, including this one. So I am still excited to get to Dragonhaven and to kind of just see where the Rain Wilds is going to take me. And lastly, I also just want to briefly mention some books that I started in November but didn't finish. And that is going to be A Feast for Crows, so the 4th installment in the Song of Ice and Fire. And I also began Memories of Ice, which is the 3rd installment in the Malazan Book of the Fallen. So I will keep you guys updated throughout my journey of these two massive books. If you would like to follow along my journey, I will do obviously some updating on Twitter. So you can follow me there, which I'll link down in the description of this video. But I'm also in a whole bunch of Discords, so if you want to hop on our Discord, or if you see me in any of the other Discords, just look for the George R.R. Martin thread, or the Song of Ice and Fire thread, or the Malazan threads. I will be in there expressing how blown my mind is at some of the events that are happening in both of these books. So I can't wait to chat with you guys in those other platforms. Now it is time for something I am extremely excited about bringing to Colin's Corner. The announcement for today's video and the announcement for the channel is that we are going to be starting a new video series on the channel. Now, I have been kind of toying with the idea of starting a live show for a while now, and the only thing that's been holding me back is that it seems like the market for live shows, which is a great thing, by the way, what I'm about to say, the market for live shows is a bit saturated, and I didn't just want to start another chatting with booktubers type thing. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It is amazing. It's how I found many of my favorite current booktubers that I watch religiously. But I wanted to do something a little bit different if I was going to bring Colin's Corner more into the live discussion forum of BookTube. And so I settled on kind of combining two of my absolute favorite hobbies and two of my favorite hobbies that have been two of my favorite hobbies for a very long time. And so the show will be called Books and Basketball. Like I said, this idea was born of two things that I am very passionate about, and so they've impacted me heavily in my life. If you guys don't know, I'm a massive Chicago Bulls fan, and I'm also a massive fan of reading books, and I kind of want to search through BookTube, through other content creators that share my common hobbies of books and basketball, and have a discussion series based around these two things. The general premise of the show is going to be, I want to know what people's origins of interest were for both of these hobbies. What got you into reading? What got you into basketball? I also want to know what keeps you coming back to these two things. What keeps you drawn to these things? And what is making you want to keep them taking up such a big part of your life like they do with me? So there's going to be kind of a general framework, some questions that I will definitely ask every guest, but seeing as it is a books and basketball show, we will probably veer out of bounds a little bit and just kind of see where the discussion takes us. I'm very excited about this, and I want to know in the comments. I've got some people lined up that already agreed to do it, and that I'm very excited about, but I'd love to know if you are a BookTube creator and you are a fan of books and basketball. Let me know if you'd be interested in coming on. If you guys know of any other booktubers that are massive books and basketball fans, if they might be interested in coming on and doing a live show with me, put it down in the comments below. So now that you guys know that there's going to be a new segment, of course, you probably want to know who my very first guest is going to be. And I'm ecstatic to announce that Dan from the Black and Blue Collar Reader is going to be my very first guest on books and basketball, and the very first show will be this upcoming Tuesday at 7 p.m. So hopefully you guys show up this Tuesday. I don't know if you can hear this, I just want to mention it just started like hailing outside, so I'm sorry if you can hear that in the video. We are going to wrap things up very soon though, but I'm very excited to be getting books and basketball on the channel, and I cannot wait to chat with you guys in the live chat. That's going to do it for my November wrap up, guys. But of course, before we end the video, we have to do this video's comedy with Colin. Today's joke is going to be, why do ducks have feathers? If you think you know the answer, drop it down in the comments below. Guys, I want to know what you read in November. What was your favorite read? Let me know what you got done in the month of November. I know for me it became a more productive month than, of course, my October and my September were. And I had a great reading month. I really enjoyed everything that I read, so hopefully you did too. Can't wait to see you guys down in the comments section. That is my favorite part of releasing every video, is waiting for you guys to come and chat with me down there. I hope you guys are all enjoying what you're currently reading, and remember, you're always welcome in Colin's Corner.